raised a man who would sell his own mother for a paycheck. I carried him, loved him, bled for him. And in the end, he traded me for a stack of papers with dollar signs on them. But here's the thing. I am not the kind of woman you betray and walk away from. No. I made sure my son learned that blood may be thicker than water, but it will never be thicker than revenge. My name is Margaret Blake, and I'm 50 years old, born and raised in the small town of Ashford, Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and where the only excitement comes from high school football games and the annual fall festival. I wasn't supposed to be a mother at 19. I wasn't supposed to raise a child alone. But life, well, it has a way of rewriting your plans without asking your permission. When I found out I was pregnant, my boyfriend, Michael, disappeared faster than smoke in the wind. He said he wasn't ready, that he needed to figure himself out. I didn't have time to figure myself out. I had a baby growing inside me. That baby was Daniel. From the moment I held him, I swore to myself I'd give him everything. My parents didn't have much, but they taught me hard work, and I was ready to work for him until my hands bled. I worked double shifts at Clarkson's Diner, pouring coffee for truckers at 3 a.m., smiling through exhaustion because every extra dollar meant a better life for Daniel. When he was 5, I bought him his first pair of real sneakers, the ones all the other kids had. His eyes lit up like I'd just given him the moon. When he was 10, I saved for months to get him a used bike. He rode it until the tires were bald. We weren't rich, but we had each other. We had trust. It started small. By the time Daniel hit 16, he wasn't asking for just sneakers or bikes anymore. He wanted status. The newest iPhone, designer clothes, expensive gadgets. I tried explaining that I couldn't afford everything, that sometimes you had to wait to earn it. But the world had changed, and patience wasn't something kids learned anymore. He got a part-time job at a car wash, and that's when he met Tyler, a guy in his early 20s, flashy car, gold watch, and a way of talking that made you feel like you were missing out if you weren't like him. Tyler wasn't just a bad influence. He was the crack in Daniel's glass. And once a crack starts, it doesn't stop. Daniel left for college at 19, a business degree at a university 3 hours away. I cried for weeks, but I told myself it was for the best. At first, he called every Sunday, told me about classes, new friends, plans for the future. But then, the calls became shorter, less frequent, and every time we spoke, he seemed different, more polished, more cold. When he graduated, he didn't come home. He moved straight to Chicago to work for a real estate firm Tyler had introduced him to. I told myself it was just ambition, that he was chasing his dreams. But deep down, I knew. My little boy was slipping away. It happened on a rainy Thursday. I was 2 months behind on my mortgage. My job at the diner barely kept the lights on. Swallowing my pride, I called Daniel. He didn't answer the first time, or the second. When he finally picked up, his voice was sharp, impatient, like I'd interrupted something important. "Daniel, honey," I started. I need your help, just for a little while. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious." There was a pause. Then he said, "Mom, I can't keep bailing you out. You have to learn to manage your money better." Bailing me out? I'd never asked him for a dime before. I reminded him of the years I'd worked 3 jobs, the nights I'd gone hungry so he could eat. His answer? That was your choice. I didn't ask you to. And then he hung up. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from a law firm. Daniel was selling the house, my house, the one I'd lived in my entire life. He had somehow convinced my half-brother, the co-owner of the property after my parents died, to sign over his share to him. Then Daniel took legal action to force me out so he could sell it for profit. It wasn't just betrayal. It was erasure. Like I was nothing more than an obstacle in the way of his next deal. I cried for 3 days straight. Then I stopped. Something inside me hardened. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to teach my son the kind of lesson he'd never forget. I called Daniel, told him I understood, told him I'd move out peacefully if he gave me a few weeks. He seemed relieved, almost smug. He even offered to help me pack. In that time, I went to work. You see, Daniel's new firm, they had a spotless reputation, on paper. But Tyler, he'd bragged over dinner once about how they smoothed over property deals with a little creative accounting. And I'd kept that conversation recorded. Every word. 2 months later, the story broke. Daniel's face was plastered on every local news channel. Words like fraud, embezzlement, and federal investigation followed his name. His firm dropped him overnight. The investors sued. And Tyler? He vanished, leaving Daniel to take the full hit. He came to my new apartment, a small, quiet place above a laundromat. Looking 10 years older, he begged, cried, asked why I hadn't warned him. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "That was your choice. I didn't ask you to." The same words he'd thrown at me when I needed him most. Daniel left that day a broken man. I don't know if he'll recover, and maybe that makes me cool. But here's the truth. When someone sells you out for money, the only currency they understand is loss. Blood may be thicker than water, but revenge? Revenge is thicker than both.